Today we are looking at the role of teachers in abating student stress. This is by Melissa Kibler. So let's first address what the problem really is. So we know that too much stress can hinder a student's learning and overwhelm them. We know that processing ability and problem solving ability are negatively affected during test anxiety, and stress can really negatively affect school culture and environment. It's linked to anxiety, depression, hopelessness, suicidal thoughts, and it leads to an increase in erratic and impulsive behavior, which includes elevated drug and alcohol use. However, despite all of these negative issues with stress, we don't want to just make school like a super happy place where there is no assignments, because you really can use stress as a good motivator. Low levels of stress have been shown to increase test performance. So, this is why there is a need to understand how stress is affecting students so that we are able to help them thrive in and out of school. So, let's look at the causes of our student stress. Of course, there's homework and assignments, there's increased testing, there's pressure for high grades, either internally from teachers or a lot of times from their parents. There's a lot of projects, often they're going on at one time, like just multiple things happening at once. There can be a hostile school environment, bullying, other violent acts that are going on. There's peer pressure. Extracurriculars are an issue as well. A lot of students are having to do a lot of stuff before and after school. And then there's also just the distractions within a classroom as well. It's been found that using self-control actually causes stress. Then it makes it harder to resist stimuli later on as well. So you literally can use up self-control. However, not all stress is bad. There are two different types of stress. There is hindrance stress and there is challenge stress. So challenge stress is the good one that motivates a person to push themselves harder to keep going, whereas hindrance stress is that one that causes frustration, makes a person feel beat down. Now, the difference between those two is not about amount, it's about a person's perception. An individual's personality is what really changes if they see the same thing as either challenging or hindering, whether they're going to be motivated or frustrated. Now, multiple avenues were researched into what could possibly be a solution to helping our students with hindrance stress. First, let's take a look at diet and food choice. Now, obesity and higher BMI, body mass index, have been linked with higher levels of stress. However, it's hard to really nail down what causes which. They seem to cause each other. High levels of stress leads to poor eating, which creates the health and emotional issue, which leads back to the higher levels of stress. Also, there's not always anything that schools can do about that. Schools cannot control the food that students are eating at home or what they're bringing from home. Schools can affect the food that's in the cafeteria, set rules about certain foods brought in, candy, sodas, energy drinks, stuff like that. But there's a lot of just everyday food, Lunchables that are not good for them, but we cannot control. Another issue that was looked at was gender, because it has been reported that women have higher levels of stress, chronic stress, and daily stress. It seems to be that interpersonal relationships are the cause of this, because women are more prone to really feel an emotional response to social rejection. Now, teachers could help with this, or even schools could help with this. They could monitor the female friends group, listen for gossip that's going on, intervene if necessary. It could be set up so that there's a lot of helpful skills being brought into those groups so that they're building healthy friendships. However, that's not going to solve all of the stress that's going on. It's definitely a good thing that teachers should be doing, schools should be doing, but it's not going to be the solution to all the stress that students are experiencing. Next, parent support was looked at. It was thought to be that maybe if students had a lot of support at home, that any stress that they bring home from the day, of the homework assignments, conflicts for friends, anything like that, that parents would be able to help the student through that. However, it was interesting that it was found that there was no connection between a parent involvement and how a student was performing. So it didn't really seem to help that if they had how the parent was, whether or not the student was doing better with assignments, worse with assignments, anything like that. Next, removing homework was looked at. Due to the fact that homework tends to be a high stressor for students, it's happening every single day. A lot of times they feel like they need their parents' help. The parents don't know what to do. There's been several movements of of an idea to remove homework. However, homework has a role. It's valuable independent practice. That's what it's supposed to be for, and it's supposed to extend the learning of the classroom. However, this doesn't mean like anything sent home is great homework. The type that it is does matter. So it really should be something the student can do independently without their parents' help, and it really is meant to be practice. So some of the stress that comes from homework can be changed if we change the grading system. You can think of the grade that you give a homework as communicating to the student what your expectations for that homework is. If you're grading them on it being correct, then they're going to feel stressed out about doing it perfectly, getting help, all that sort of stuff. And not all of them are capable of that. However, if you do credit, no credit, you're telling them, I just want you to try. I just want you to put in some effort into this. And even if you want to go beyond that, it could be not for a grade, it could be something else. Maybe they have to give up time somewhere else to get that completed or get that practice in. So by changing the grading, changing the mentality around homework, you're really communicating like, hey, this is just practice, give it a try. You're continuing what we did in class. And instead of there being all this stress about doing it correct and needing help and all of that. Another thing that was looked at was reducing class sizes, since it was found that you can actually use up self control, and students have to use up self control all the time with having to resist any stimuli that's happening in the classroom, a person tapping their pencil, a car passing by, whatever's happening outside. It was thought, well, maybe we can change the classroom environment. Maybe if we removed a number of students, then there's just less people for there to be less distractions. However, it was found that this really does not seem to have an effect on the mental health or stress levels of adolescents. So removing, another 5 students is not going to have that overall effect that we want. So let's look at what schools could do, what could be done at an administration level. So of course, an implementation of a SEL program, so social emotional learning program, really can have an impact on all of the students. And the higher up it's implemented, the more it's going to be ingrained into the school culture. Schools really are meant to help students develop into fully functioning human beings. It's not just teaching math and science and history and all those things. It's not about just shoving facts into students' heads. It's about helping them become citizens that are going to be functional in the real world. So schools should be helping to promote mental health and having some sort of suicide prevention plan or program in place. Really, any sort of SEL program or ideas around how to promote mental health at a school needs to be done at an administration level. This cannot be done by a single teacher. This needs to be done by principals, superintendents, someone higher up who can get it really ingrained into the full school culture. So let's look at what an individual teacher can do. Because stress levels are relative to a person, it's really more impactful to change the perception of stress. Changing the amount of work assigned is not going to have the same impact on every person. So by framing an assignment in a positive manner, it's going to help keep stress reduced around that assignment. So framing the assignment as an opportunity, framing it as you get this chance to be creative in building this and doing this, and you have this choice, you get to instead of you have to, it's going to help reduce the amount of stress around an assignment. And of course, this doesn't mean that you just introduce the assignment as something magical and wonderful and then walk away. You need to monitor their emotions around the assignment as it continues. So listening for complaining and then any concerns that come up and addressing those. And of course, sometimes you need to be flexible with deadlines. Things are going to happen, and a student shouldn't feel overwhelmed with the stress of getting this project due when they really have been putting their best effort in all along. Another thing that can really help with stress around an assignment is allowing for choice. Students are going to feel stressed out if they have to do an assignment and they have no control over it. So giving them choice in that assignment means they get the opportunity to be creative, means they get to control how that's going to look, how that's going to happen. And it's been found that people who feel like they have control over their time are less stressed during that time. So when we give students that choice in you get to build it this way, you can use these supplies, it could look like this, it could look like that, letting them choose, they're going to feel more motivated to do an assignment, to do a project, and they're going to feel less stress over the fact that they have to do that assignment in the first place. Something that goes wonderfully with that perception change is growth mindset. So, growth mindset is really the idea that a person's self perception is going to lead to how successful they are. If they believe that they can accomplish something, they can. If they believe they can't, then they can't. It really is. If I think I can do it, I'm going to be more motivated. So, with growth mindset, you're teaching students to look at challenges as opportunities. You get to work through and struggle, and at the end you're going to be better at this, or you're going to accomplish this, you're going to have grown as a person, you're going to have taken in a new skill. As we just talked about framing assignments as opportunities, the growth mindset is like you get a chance to grow during this experience as well. And obviously if students are looking at those challenges as opportunities to grow, to get better, to pick up a skill, they're not going to struggle with motivation as someone who feels stuck, like they have to do it. This also allows students to feel more positive with the whole school experience, because school is now a place where they get to dream and build and do creative things, and they have choice and they have opportunities and they're growing, instead of a place where they're just told what to do all day. Now, growth mindset really needs to be built into the culture, the speak, the lessons. The more thing it's integrated into, the more that we're using the language of opportunities, of growing, of experience, of oh, this is a challenge, not a hindrance, the better it's going to have an impact on our students. So again, it's great if a teacher really builds us into a culture, but it would even be better if a school built it into their culture as well. Now, some other strategies that work really well into growth mindset and into perception change are time management and problem solving. Having all the wonderful feelings and thoughts about yourself in the world is not going to help you get something done unless you actually have the skills to do it. So, time management and problem solving are both really good skills that can help our students actually get accomplished what they feel like they need to get accomplished. So, with time management, students are able to really track that they're being efficient with their time and making sure that they get all the tasks done that they need to. Now, time management also needs to include cell phone use. It didn't used to, but of course, we're seeing a trend where students are not using their time efficiently because of their access to cell phones and even other technology as well. Teaching students what proper technology use looks like, what proper phone use looks like, or just to resist it, to turn it off, to put it away, anything like that, goes in with time management of using their time wisely and resisting these temptations. Problem solving is another thing that will help students just get over any hurdles in their way. When a student has problem solving skills, they're able to find help, find resources when they're having obstacles, when they're having hindrances. So because of that, they're not going to have hindering stress. They're able to accomplish what they need to. They're able to get help when they need to, get resources, tools, anything like that. So problem solving is going to remove the obstacles, and just their overall level of stress will decrease. But of course, teaching these skills together is going to have the most impact. Teaching time management, problem solving, and growth mindset is going to have all together is going to have the biggest impact on our students. For this reason, it is the recommendation of this researcher that those three things are done in tandem by any classroom teacher if they are concerned about stress in their students.